last time, the individuals that submitted an application or a request for funding gave brief presentations, and there were some questions that the group wanted answered regarding whether the request was scalable, if we didn't give them the full amount that they requested, and if it was sustainable. If after the innovation funds were depleted, if they would be able to continue those programs. So to the exec committee, I sent out the responses to those questions. We got it back from all of them. They all said, for the most part, I mean, you guys probably read them, that they are scalable. However, they will provide less service, and they are sustainable should they get funds. So that's the information that we got. And we had set this to be just kind of a quick meeting to kind of go through these and decide who, I mean, if and who we're going to fund for this go around. And also, there's a new face at the table, Robin Jones, who has recently been promoted to supervising deputy probation officer. I think most of you probably already know who she is, but welcome.
Thanks.
All right, as far as the proposals go, does anyone have any questions regarding the responses? And this is the time for discussion to kind of hash this out. And the folks that submitted those proposals, for those of us who were here last time, kind of, not that they were required to, they kind of self-excused themselves for us to kind of deliberate over those proposals without them being in the room, and so they understood that process. So.
Can you briefly go over, Jeff, just what the process is going to look like here as far as voting? Do we get to pick and choose? And
well, so we allocated in the budget, I think it was 40,000. So where's the Angie?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Not saying that we couldn't change that, but that would require an amendment, a budget amendment. All of them except for one asked for the entire 40,000. We had 4 requests. And we also had a discussion about that the initial intent was to spur innovation, to have seed money for new programs that people just wanted to try out. And then if they were successful, for them to go about other ways to find funding for those. I mean, not saying they couldn't come back here through other mechanisms, but the idea wasn't through the innovation funding piece of it. And so we had communities beyond violence, had a restorative justice program. We had PAWS, which is the, fostering animals while people are in recovery. We had Connecting Point, which was providing job services. And then we had Women of Worth, expanding the program that we funded last year. Expanding, I think, to the jail was one of the things, I think.
I think they're already at the jail. I think they have been offering more classes.
Okay.
And then PAWS is the only one that came in under the 40 and 20, is that right?
Correct.
I said this, but are the other pauses new? The other 3 are existing programs that are either being sustained or expanded.
I think CBB is new.
Restorative justice one was new. The Women of Worth one is extending last year's, and then the Connecting Point is
It's been around.
expanding a program that they already do.
And they've had different, I mean, I think their social service, I think they got like $1 million grant a couple of years ago and a couple other things. I think it's adding like a 0.4 person to expand their ability to take in referrals.
And that's for juveniles primarily, right? It's gonna-
Well, what up to youth 30?
Youth.
Yeah,
Fair.
I think it was like 16 to 30 or something was the age group. We just want to vote? Do we want to discuss? What do you
Well,
guys?
there's
I mean, they're all different, obviously.
Yeah, and we can boast all for one or different, or break it up into 2.
Yeah, and that's why we asked about the scalability part of it.
we're discussing that.
And does anyone wanna, you look like you're about ready to say something.
Well, I think I talked over Jesse, I'm sorry.
No, I'm
Yes, he was just saying, do we wanna start taking votes or how?
I mean, we talked last time about like, do we prioritize new programs and like upfront in the application? Make it very clear that this is a 1-year allocation and they need to have a sustainability plan. We didn't do that this year, but my preference is still like based on other innovation programs to fund new things. And the idea is you're out there experimenting. And so like from that perspective, I like pause and then potentially giving a partial amount to the other new one, which I guess is the CCD one, yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
And that's what, I mean, probably Georgette, Angie can speak to this better because they composed the initial letter, but I think that's kind of how it was framed and worded, was that this is for innovative projects.
Yeah, and I mean, we can make that more clear.
Yeah.
In the next iteration of it.
I think my concern with these are the 2 of the programs are not new or innovative. And the pause one, I really don't think that grant funding should be used to pay for lawyers or outreach. I think those are things that you're gonna get a volunteer lawyer and you're gonna, I mean, the outreach, it sounds like they're already doing that. I also think that's an easy thing. So I'm wondering, with these funds, can we say to them, we're gonna give you what you're asked for, but you may not spend it on these things. You have to find a different source for those, or.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Devoted all the program, since I probably already addressed it.
I mean, it should, like, I sort of feel like it's an innovative program. And it should go to program, not to making sure the program doesn't get sued.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounded like from the first cat, I think he said that they took in like 10%, 10% of the funds like went to a medical, issue with cat. So
Carrie, what was the other thing you were saying? No lawyers or what?
The outreach piece, care packages, media outreach, printed materials, travel expenses.
for their capacity, you think outreach would just be letting common goals and write that down.
Common purpose.
Our common purpose.
Yeah,
DBA, it's common
Exactly.
purpose.
yes.
What if they like,
And us.
like do some flyers or something to have.
Flyers in the
available for
courtroom.
this? Yeah.
Yeah. Flyers in my lobby, flyers in your lobby, flyers in social services and behavioral health. I think there's some really easy, inexpensive outreach they could be doing. That doesn't require us to pay.
You'd find a volunteer veterinarian.
Yeah, I thought they had one, when they presented, they had somebody already.
Yeah,
Like
right.
they
On
spend
their
10% of their budget.
Yeah, and I think-
There.
Yeah, and
Maybe
Still, I mean, veterinarian's expensive. I mean, they don't have, like, I mean, I guess they have health insurance for animals, but still, I mean, it's still very, very expensive. And, there's like managed care systems that tell them that they're spending too much money on that spay or neuter, it's still.
Yeah, I mean, we can. And it sounds like that people are on board with it being the two new things. So if someone wants to make a motion, someone wants to craft a motion to approve those two things and those different dollar amounts, or like I said, I mean, we have, what is our reserve amount? It's like 4 million, something like that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the innovation fund.
No, I'm saying 8109 altogether.
That sounds approximately right,
I
yeah.
mean, so that's another option, is that we could also vote to up it, or we could vote to keep it the way it is.
He offers one of like pause more than 20,000.
No, because they didn't ask for more than.
Like, wait, what?
No, I'm saying offer pause the 20,000, and then if we really wanted to offer
Spend the other.
CBV the full 40,000, we could, we just would have to take some money out of the.
The only reason we have so much money is because we didn't do this correctly for a few years, but we're at a point where it's just gonna be
Well,
a
that's-
stable amount of money put in every year. And aren't these over that stable amount already?
Yeah, there's no, I mean.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's, yeah, I'm not talking about 4 million in reserves in innovation.
No,
That's
no, I
just
mean,
all
so
in
for the innovation
8109.
fund, I mean, I just don't think we have that money, so.
Yeah, and innovation
Sure, we
specific,
should
yeah.
increase it to 40.
Did they say this year that they're not even making base, or is that? I see the thing yesterday.
I thought I saw a thing yesterday about that, so.
If it's down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing on the CPV request that I saw some overlap with a pre-existing program that has not gotten a lot of traction at this particular point. So, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, so maybe that's a smaller amount. Cause they did say if we had everyone, and that was like 130 people, and I know that every single person that goes through CBV is like in a victim offender mediation program.
But especially for an innovative, like startup thing, you pilot with a small
Yeah.
group anyway, so like my preference would be not to supplement with general AB 109 funds and just stick to that innovation amount.
Alright, and
Same.
20 and 20. Wait, pause.
20 and 20, but a caveat on pause that they may not spend it on legal assistance for outreach.
alright, you wanna make
Needs to
that
go
motion
to-
then with all those,
Yes.
those things?
Yes, so I would move that we approve the pause request in the amount of $20,000 with the caveat that it is not to go to legal assistance or outreach, and that we approve the CBV program in the amount of $20,000 and suggest that they work with probation and the DA's program that has so far been unsuccessful to see if we can make a successful program for the county.
Karen, before we vote on that, what did they find outreach as with the POS program? What are we concerned about their spending in outreach?
Care packages, media outreach, printed materials, and travel expenses.
Certain travel expenses. But I mean, they're gonna have to do some sort of outreach, right? To
It's a volunteer thing, which they say they already have been running, so why are we paying $4,000 for that, but only, $5,000 for basic animal services?
yeah, I mean, I just don't want to handcuff them too much and have them in violation of the allocation of funds because they, do something with outreach on a very low level, but.
And I wonder when they say travel, is it just mileage, like getting around town? Or are we talking like conferences? Like,
Yes,
Theoretically, you don't need outreach to the customers because it's like you've got this person that's ready to go into treatment and the barrier is this bad. And so it's not like you need a media campaign to reach them. You have them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think the media outreach is to get funding,
it's great.
which is fantastic, but as funders, I don't think we should be paying for them to get funding that way.
Is it to find people to house the animals?
Could be that too.
Yeah, maybe we need more specificity around what that is. We could put limitations on what the outreach is for.
Do that. Or just cut it
Different motion.
substantially,
You could, yeah, you could limit it to like $1,000 in that section or something.
I like that idea.
I like that idea also. Okay, let's change that motion.
Outreach to $1,000.
Yes,
All right, what's,
to
now
limit the
you're getting
outreach to
into like Robert's rules. Right?
yeah.
Take away that motion, or do you amend your motion?
I amend my motion to change it to $1,000 towards outreach.
The total.
No, it still would be.
They
20,000,
reallocate that money.
but reallocate that money to basic
Direct
services and emergency services, direct services to the animals and the clients.
They're already getting free media. I mean, it was on, I think it was the Union last week. It's been on Facebook quite a bit, so.
I get a second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? More than we've already had? Exact, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? All right,
What do you want the notification process to be for those?
Oh, wait, we didn't fund anything yet, right? We just voted.
Well, we just voted.
To change the language within the proposal.
yeah, but the first part was to fund the.
Okay, well then now I really don't know what to do, because we gotta address that. I'm not voting on it, but it's a package deal. I was just focused on amending the language as it related to the proposal. So, thousand apologies. And I'm paying attention too, so this all happened when I'm paying attention.
Okay, have a sip of that coffee. Yeah, I don't know how to undo a vote that's already passed, but, yes, my understanding of what I took away from that was we were voting on 20,000 to pause, 20,000 to CVV, pause $1,000, only $1,000 from $4,000 into marketing and no money on attorneys. Is that what you were trying to do?
Yes.
Okay. So what would you like to?
Well, I'm good with the pause. I'm good with amending the language. I don't necessarily pick the CPV option of these proposals. So that's where the disconnect was.
Okay.
It's not a meeting of my mind with your minds.
Yeah, so I mean, CBV's presentation was, because we discussed with them about how, you know, at least one of your staff has gone to mediation training. And one of our staff, our former staff, had gone to mediation training for victim offender mediation. Their focus was more on DV clients. You know, we talked about, okay, you know, when we initially discussed our thing, like a lot of DV clients might not be appropriate for victim offender mediation, as well as like probation clients, not until they've moved through the probation process and got to a point where it's a meaningful dialogue and not just, you know, checking a box or something like that. And they discussed how they thought they could do that and their relationship with victims and offenders and all those sorts of things. They said they had 100 and some odd clients, I think 130 something clients that would be eligible. And like Ryan was saying, yeah, you probably would be more of a pilot. I mean, I was thinking probably 5 people, maybe they'd be lucky if they got to go through this thing. And that was the discussion.
And it's specifically focused on restorative justice surrounding domestic violence offenders and victims.
So people that they service, which I think is all partner violence type stuff. So.
I think they did mention as well, one of the things that was a little bit different where there would not have to be an active like criminal case or even an arrest. So if something was caught earlier, or someone went to them, they could provide services to a couple that were having domestic violence issues.
I guess my invitation there was offender and victim, and then offering these services to an already complicated relationship with all kinds of moving dynamics that we deal with on a daily basis, including the pressure for the victim to acquiesce to their provider. And now you're putting a program that gives them another opportunity to feel that pressure. And that was from my hesitation towards restorative justice for domestic violence, announcing the supportive type of, you know, evidence-based research that showed that that is something that would be productive towards specifically victims.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I didn't have enough information there to really get on board with restorative justice as it relates to that subset of criminal.
Yeah, and I think those of us who've sat years through court hearings and DV cases, like, understand those dynamics don't always make sense. And like, yes, maybe it would put someone in a situation where they probably shouldn't be in that relationship and, you know, push them to resolve things in that. But on the evidence-based side, I do think that like the whole idea of the innovation is for them to try something and collect data and try something different and new. Hence the innovation piece of it, you know, whether this fits, I mean, that's up to you as far as your vote goes, but, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had some hesitation with it too. I mean, in that vein, but I think she did a pretty good job of kind of explaining away those things. I mean, I voted for the pets thing and I made it very clear I don't even like pets.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, I think if it was an organization that didn't deal with domestic violence sorts of issues as their day-to-day thing, I think that I would be more concerned. But they do. And their proposal is that they will work with survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault who want to engage in restorative justice. That's their focus, not bringing people in who aren't interested.
No, I agree. I just see it as particularly problematic, in that relationship. So. All right, so how do I do my vote?
And part of theirs also involves training and how to do it better.
I mean, I kind of thought of like, yeah, if you have a mediator, like my experience is, you know, even if there's protective or, I mean, even if there's things in place, a lot of times those individuals still, you know, go back to each other. So maybe one more layer of mediation to help with the inevitable, you know, might be a benefit.
What if like, if it's somebody that's involved, if it's a criminal case and they're reaching out to the offenders because the victim wants to engage and there's a restraining order, like, is that gonna trip somebody up and get them in trouble? Like, you know, like, I mean, are these
Yeah, well, that's
individuals
right, yeah.
trained to know the difference and know all of the ins and outs of the legal system as well?
I would hope so.
I would hope so, since they work on this stuff all the
Yeah,
time.
running the shelters.
And they're running the shelter, so, but I mean, I think we could add that they need to be working on, when there is an actual criminal case, they need to be collaborating with the DA and probation as the offender's attorney.
Do we have what's the procedural path for amending the already voted on
I have to go upstairs and get my,
Robert's rules of order?
I'm actually looking at
You stuck bringing it with
I
you.
think someone could do a motion to recall that vote.
have a recall.
Yeah, but I think we just recall votes. Of the circumstances.
I make a motion to recall the vote.
I
We have
second,
two attorneys. here.
I second it.
Okay. All, any discussion?
Can I ask one question? So, it sounds like the other ones, because I agree with everything that's been said in a sense, as far as these two. But these are the two that have been identified as innovative. It sounds like the consensus is to focus on the innovative one. So let's say the second one, what would be the alternative for those $20,000?
I mean, we have tons of options. We could just not fund another one as well. I mean, that's one of the options. I mean, we could hold off, and if we want them to answer more questions, I mean, it just depends on what, like, if those concerns can be alleviated or not, I guess, is the
Well,
other.
and also, it doesn't have to be unanimous.
Yeah.
Right, no.
And also, are we precluding the other two proposals, saying that they don't qualify for the funds because they're not innovative?
That was kind of my question.
Yeah, no, I mean, someone could put forward that, make a motion that they want to fund those things too. Yeah. We are close to needing unanimous, because I mean, it's 7 voting members for the statute and we got 5 here, right? We're fairly close, but
I'd also point out all CBV advocates are certified in crisis intervention and meet the state requirements for domestic violence and sexual assault counselors.
so we have a motion, and you made a comment.
Did I?
Yeah. You said, I'd like to do this for like,
I mean, we could bifurcate and just approve the
Yes.
the pause fund, but I will say we made tweaks to the pause program, and I wonder if there are any tweaks that would be helpful with this, given that it's an innovative proposal, and I appreciate your thoughts on this and have experienced where I had a kid that went through a restorative justice thing on the victim side of that and ended up apologizing to the person who victimized him in that process. And so like, how could we, like, if they're doing this new project, how do we, like, could they consult with us or give us more details in terms of like how they would preclude things like that from happening?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm all for restorative justice and I'm all for domestic violence counseling. I mean, I was prepared on the Women of Worth to support that program. That's very much domestic violence and trying to end that cycle, focusing on the victims of that, some of which are defendants in other areas. So I don't know. It's just particularly entangled with this particular proposal.
How about this? How about we approve pause and get that out of the way? That's a first. So do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the pause proposal as previously amended.
Did we already vote on the recall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we got a first and a second on eliminating what was already voted on.
Reconsider the vote.
Is that,
You want I have it up if you want to look at
I think we're good. I mean,
it.
as long as someone's gonna come back in this grouping. Okay, so we're doing a reset. We got a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? So you just voted to redo. I'm just clarifying. So now,
To recall the first vote.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
So now do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the pause proposal as previously indicated. The amendments that we had in the one we just recalled.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, motion carries. And so do we want to, or does anyone want to make a motion? I know that you said you were ready to support Women of Worth. So Women of Worth, as I understand, is a program that we supported last year or current year, still ongoing. And expanding that program, more services. And then we had other individuals ready to support CBV. Want to get through this? I mean, someone could make a motion on CBV and then that could pass, and then Women Worth is, unless someone makes a motion to expand the budget, that's a whole separate thing. So.
Previous discussion was more around like what's new versus continuing to sustain things. So nobody really talked about the substance of the Women of Worth project. So Jesse, if that's something you're favoring.
Well, just when I reviewed their proposal, it seems like it was going to be innovative and that it would be more focused on certain subsets of existing populations which they're serving, but especially as it relates to juvenile, I guess, offenders in some respect, and getting to those females and trying to educate them about the trappings of those type of relationships and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think a case can be made and it's still innovative. Similar to the case can be made, the CVB is innovative when there's already these restorative justice type of programs in place with some of the existing parties, and yet they're more focused that on what this new proposal is. So that's the path that I found for being, but I certainly see what you're saying. In general, I do support that. It should go to more substantially more innovative type programs. I just, in this case, have a little bit of issue in those circumstances.
I think why people were saying that was because Women of Worth, that program was created through this funding last cycle. So that program already exists because we funded it already. So this is an extension of that. And I don't know, Steve would know better than I about what data they've submitted so far relative to what they provided.
Basically just numbers of people that they've served. So not anything of any kind of outcome data or anything like that. So I mean, I was surprised at the last meeting. She said how many people they had seen it was or had observed. It was more than I thought because they got a late start with some of with getting contracts in place, things like that. But yes, we did fund it last year. Actually, did we get, was that one of the programs we extended because they got a late start?
Well, but we extended both of them because ultimately we didn't start them until April of last year. So by the time contracts got in place, they had like a couple of months to do the work. So that we extended them all through the end of this fiscal year. Them all as in the two that we mentioned.
Right, here's the tough.
So we could vote on CBP.
Yeah, I mean, someone has to make a motion. That's what I'm waiting for.
This is gonna make you feel better about the glitch in the matrix, but who are the voting members?
So
I was silent, so I hope it wasn't me.
yeah, DA, public defender, health and human services, court, sheriff's department, probation, police. So Alex, who is not on, so
You can't vote, right?
You can't vote by orders.
no,
And who's the sheriff's designee?
Bobby Jacobs. Thanks. Yeah.
So he's not here, so.
We didn't vote.
And that's the other piece for the folks that weren't here. Last time we did approve the bylaws finally, so you can submit someone that you want as a designee. So that's in those bylaws. So if you want to do that, make sure that you get that out so that they can be included. We can vote not to fund anyone else and just pause too. That's the other option.
Could also, couldn't you vote for three? Like you could split the 20.
Like 10 and 10. Yeah, we could do
I
that
think
too.
they're already. I don't know if they would.
Yeah, because we're already kind of hesitant of like, you know, the data collection piece for such little dollars of like, hey, make sure you give us all this information and we're gonna give you $10,000, you know, of,
Well, originally it was 15, so.
yeah.
This doesn't solve the issue of any issues with the CPD program, but you know, since the Women of Worth was funded last year, and it sounds like at least there's the beginnings of thinking that it might be a sustainable program or a program we want to sustain in the community. Would that be something that we could potentially meet with Women of Worth about that becoming something that might be funded through the bigger CCP?
We've talked about that, and also if they're focusing more on juveniles, they could go through the JJCPA process as well and ask for funding for that avenue, you know? Because it sounds like it's more preventative work on the juvenile side.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good cadence of this would be, comes in as an innovation project, and if it's successful, I don't know if we've seen data to say that, but if we believe your data has been successful, then it could potentially fold over to something that's funded in future CCP.
And that was kind of my intent for the next CCP meeting, to have a more robust discussion on like the future of funding, you know? Relative to things outside of a executive, essentially bringing it forward. So.
That makes more sense structurally with what an innovation, like regardless of the merits of the proposals, of what an innovation program should look like. So if they demonstrate success, they go to CCP or JJCPA. So I don't know if there's dissent or discussion on that, but if not, like I would suggest we talk about whether, based on this conversation, we're still supportive of CBB as a project, or if there is any way it could be tweaked that could address some of the concerns.
And I think I'm still supportive of the CVV project. I think our interactions with them, I've been impressed with the work that they do.
Yeah, I'm rereading their proposal and I feel a little bit better about it now that I've kind of reread the proposal, actually, so.
Did you that impressed?
I'm so impressed that I am going to make a motion that we approve the funding for CBB.
20,000?
No,
That's above the amount that we have available.
I thought they, so we're not, we already, never mind, we got rid of that one.
Yep.
Yeah, for 20,000. Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstain? No. All right, motion carries. So CBB for 20,000.
The next steps for the other two.
I would move that we do not fund the connecting point request
Worth to.
and refer.
Yeah.
Sure,
now we need a motion.
JPCP.
All right.
Well, I mean, for 25 and 26.
Yeah.
We already crossed that bridge with the JGCPA one.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss, like, because we're not gonna discuss CCP stuff until next time around, but I can have that discussion with them. I'll talk to those two folks. The connecting point. Would work. So,
There's something we're looking at for the potential for 25, 26, just let me know so we can.
yeah, I know. That's already in the hopper, right? So, all right, anything else that we want to discuss CCP related? I do know, and I think I said this in budget subcommittee, that I think will be helpful for the CCP that and Cummings have helped build this funding formula relative to realignment and a handful of other state initiatives for Governor Brown. Is building like a toolkit for CCPs, and she's going back and looking, you know, kind of reflecting on her work throughout the years and where it's gotten to at this point, to help with this process, because I mean, I think rightfully so, feeling that a lot of knowledge has been lost from those who were there in 2011 when all this stuff was going on to this current point, and just trying to re-up it. And it sounds like it will be like a toolkit with some like pullouts relative to like easy reading and then some more in-depth reading. People want to do that relative to the intent and funding and all those sorts of things. So you guys are probably on your edge of your seat for that, right? Yeah, Angie and Ryan are.
Yes. She is to realignment what Bob Marley is to reggae.
That's a good.
So, all right, if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned. Perfect, thank you. Great.
The Olympic caliber athlete.
Those really good.
Help yourself.
It's a little bit different texture than a normal donut, but it was good. It's good texture.
The caliber and the non.
It's non-Olympic caliber athlete.
I like that.
You don't have donuts, you might like that. That's good. It's worth it.